Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, who came to us in the person of a man. The man's name is Master Farad Muhammad. In the name of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the black man from Georgia, who when he saw and heard this man, he knew what he was looking at. He knew that he was looking at God in person. I'm talking about the honorable Elijah Muhammad. And as they say in the streets, it takes one to know one. And in the name of the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I say honorable because this man kept his word to the honorable Elijah Muhammad and spread the word of the honorable Elijah Muhammad, the teachings across the nation and now the world. And in his name, I like to say Assalamu alaikum. After this past Sunday, Minister Farrakhan gave that lecture that was so powerful. He dropped a lot of bombs. He exposed a lot of people, in particular the synagogue of Satan and the man of sin. He broke it down between the good Jews and the bad Jews and what the bad Jews are up to, been up to. And I'm also a farmer, and just this morning before we were doing this presentation, we were out pulling weeds in our watermelons. And this is a similar activity that we're in the process of right now, which is called separation. Separating the wheat and the tare. And for us to leave these people. But you know, these people are real sneaky. They try to act like they're your friend. And it's just like the weeds. You know, the weeds, they come right up close to your plant. They even try to grow in the same spot that your plant is growing in, try to look like your plant. So that to kill the weed, you might kill your plant. And you got to be very careful to get the weeds out without killing your plant. And if you're doing it hand to hand, you got to know, you know, what your plant looks like. In particular watermelons, how the leaves look when they run, different from the weeds, so you don't pull up both. You got to have the right instrument to do it. Sometimes you got to do it by hand. Now, of course, with some of the crops, you got chemicals. But you just put the chemicals in the water, and the chemicals will attack one type of crop, which would be the weed, and it leaves your crop that you want alone. Now, we don't do that at Muhammad Farms because, you know, people are trying to be organic. But the point is, you can feed the truth. And the truth to one species will make it grow and flourish. And the truth to the enemy of that species could make it dry up and die. So Minister Farrakhan dropped that wisdom out there about these people who have been acting like they're our friends, but in fact are enemies to not only the black man, but even to their own white brethren, and eventually to themselves, because they're fighting God, and they're going to lose. So today, we want to start off from the message to the black man, because what we're going to talk about today is this relentless war against the black nation. You know, it ain't that black folks ain't been trying to do good things and trying to build, but we didn't know that there was somebody sneaking around all the time, always planning against us, tricking us, lying to us, getting other folks to fight and kill us, getting us to fight and kill one another. It goes back 6,000 years. And they keep doing it over and over again. And time we get a leg up on something, they come out with something like the movie Malcolm X. And in that movie, they never talk about Yakub history and the making of the white man and who these people are. They didn't put that in that movie because they're trying to hide who they are and just have them talking about some civil rights or human rights. But now, who are these people who are destroying our rights, who've killed us? Millions and hundreds of millions of us. Who are these people? Let's go to Message to the Black Man. This is my old copy of Message to the Black Man. I have a new copy and it reads the same as the old copy. But I'm glad Allah blessed me not to throw the message to the black man away when the nation of Islam was destroyed by the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now I want to read to you a little bit of Yakub's history and the people who he made and what they did and what we had to do with them. And this is when this man is born. It's talking about Yakub. This is for Message to the Black Man. I'm quoting directly. He will change civilization, the world, and produce a new race of people who would rule the original black nation for 6,000 years, from the 9,000th year to the 15,000th year. After Yaqub's devils were among the holy people of Islam, the black nation, for 6 months, they had our people at war with each other. The holy people were unable to understand just why they could not get along in peace with each other until they took the matter to the king. The king told the holy people of the black nation that the trouble that they were having was caused by the white devils in their midst, and that there would be no peace among them until they drove these white-made devils from among them. The holy people prepared to drive the devils out from among them. The king said, "Gather every one of the devils up and strip them of our costume, put an apron on them to hide their nakedness, take all liturgy from them, and take them by way of the desert. Send a caravan armed with rifles to keep the devils going westward. Don't allow one of them to turn back. And if they are lucky enough to get across the Arabian desert, let them go into the hills of West Asia, the place they now call Europe." Yaqub's made devils were driven out of paradise into the hills of West Asia, Europe, stripped of everything but the language. They walked across that hot, sandy desert into the land where long years of both trouble and joy awaited them, but they finally made it. Not all. Many died in the desert. Once there, they were roped in to keep them out of paradise, to make sure the Muslims who lived along the borders of East and West Asia were ordered to patrol the border to keep Yaqub's devils in West Asia, now called Europe, so that the original nation of black men could live in peace, and that the devils could be alone to themselves to do as they pleased, as long as they didn't try crossing the east border. The soldiers patrolled the border armed with swords to prevent the devils from crossing. This went on for 2,000 years. After that time, Moses, was born, the man whom Allah would send to these exiled devils to bring them again into the light of civilization. So we see here that Moses didn't take them Exodus, didn't take them out of Egypt from the bondage. Moses actually went to the caves of West Asia and brought them up out of their own mental bondage, their own cultural bondage. We kept them away from us, and they went savage. And so he was sent to bring them up to civilization again. And what we do in the research group, we try to bear witness to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We go and try to find somebody else who can verify, and hopefully is a scientist or a historian, somebody that's really credible, who's done some research that will verify what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. And in fact, we find that there are some Caucasian and Arab scholars who've done the work, and they've found some interesting things. In particular, there's something, a group called a Kurgan culture of 4000 BC. That's 6,000 years ago. That's a time frame where we're looking for these people who were ran out of the Holy Land up into the Caucasus Mountains. And we can show you where they were run to in a minute. But in the general outline, the Kurgan culture is a patriarchal, semi-nomadic, Indo-European speaking group of stock breeders who originated in the vicinity of the lower Volga River just north of the Caucasus and migrated westward across much of Europe, eastward across Central Asia, and southward into Anatolia and Greece, starting in about 4000 to 3500 BC. Before the Kurgan invasion, the inhabitants are described by archaeologists as Mediterranean types, which is a euphemism for dark-skinned, oval-headed, while the conquering Kurgans were white-skinned, square-headed. After Kurgan had conquered an area, the primary changes are said to have been, quote, the emergence of ranked, highly competitive societies dominated by localized elites who controlled local production and enriched themselves through trade and warfare. These are some warlike, wicked, sneaky people. In other words, they developed a stratified caste system, as we find in India today. Light skin on top and dark skin on bottom. The indigenous people were farmers who grew a variety of grains, whereas the invaders were mostly sheep herders who had domesticated the sheep, the wolf, into a sheepdog, and the horse. So the dog is their best friend. That's who they had in the caves with them, and who they go back to their caves now with them. And then they've taken us and bred us into what's called now a nigger, that we're trying to break the bond, psychological bond that they put in our DNA as they destroyed our humanity. We're going to get to that in terms of this continual warfare with the black nation. So we have, first of all, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad telling us the history of how the white man came amongst us causing trouble. 6,000 years ago, we had to kick him out, put him up in the mountains. Well, we got proof now from their own research that they have found these people in the mountains. These Kurgan people, these white-skinned people who are invaders. So now the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching us not some mythology, it's just the hidden history of a people who had to do a job. They couldn't do it if people knew who they were. If they already knew they were made devils, they couldn't do the job of, in fact, sneaking in amongst us and taking over from us. So their identity was hidden for 6,000 years. But there are some people who knew the history, who know who they are, and were supposed to teach their brothers, but didn't, but use that knowledge to control both the black man and the Gentile white man. That's who Mr. Farrakhan is exposing you through the Talmud. So let's go to the Talmud. Let's go briefly to the Talmud. Let's get into this to see that there's a set of people who know what's going on, but they're not going to tell you the truth. So, the title of our little presentation today is The Relentless War Against the Black Nation. Now, this is from the Talmud, talking about the 6,000 years. This is from the Talmud. This is their book that Mr. Farrakhan was describing, reading pieces of it this past Sunday. It said, a Tannaite authority of the house of Elijah said, for 6,000 years the world will exist. Now, this is for Elijah Muhammad. Now, this is the Talmud, which was written about 3,500 years ago. For 2,000 it will be desolate. 2,000 years will be the time of the Torah, and 2,000 years will be the days of the Messiah. But on account of our numerous sins, what has been lost of those years in which the Messiah should have come but has not come has been lost. Okay, this last sentence is crazy is heck, and we're going to deal with it. But let's go back over here. So they admit for 6,000 years the world will exist. Okay, the 6,000 years they will exist. For 2,000 it will be desolate. Desolate. That means that's when they was in the caves and hillsides of Europe doing nothing. Until Musa came, 2,000 years will be the time of Torah given to them by Musa. And 2,000 years will be the days of the Messiah. Well, that would have been Jesus 2,000 years ago. But look at these wicked people. But on account of our numerous sins, well, that's true, what has been lost of those years in which the Messiah should have come but has not come has been lost. He did come. Your last prophet to you, your Messiah, came to you. You rejected him. You killed him. But yet you count time knowing that that was his 2,000 years. Man, how wicked can you be? To deny somebody and then to count him as well. That's almost like that, what, 3/5 of a man? You're going to say, well, he's a man, but you could deny his humanity? This is the type of thinking of these people who call themselves Jews, these so-called Jews, the Talmudic Jews. They sneaky as hell. Okay. Now here's the area we're talking about. Now here is the Caucasus Mountains. Here's Turkey, and down this way you got Arabia and Egypt, down further. But you got the Kurgan culture is here north of the Caucasus Mountains. You also have the Khazaria. Over time they changed from Kurgan, Khazaria, different names, but all this is this area above the Caucasus Mountains where these people were imprisoned. There's a wall called the Wall and Gate of Derbend, right here near the Caspian Sea. This is the mountain, and here's a gate. And on this side, you have a group of people called the Colchians, who are on this side of it. Now, Herodotus, he saw these people. Herodotus lived from 484 to 425 BC. And in his histories, he said, still the Egyptians said that they believed that the Colchians to be descendant from the army of Sesostris. My own conjectures were founded first on the fact that they are black-skinned and have woolly hair, which certainly amounts to but little, since several other nations are so too, but further and more especially on the circumstance that the Colchians, the Egyptians, and the Ethiopians, Nubians, are the only nations who have practiced circumcision from their earliest times. Now, this is important. Now, these Colchians who are here the Caucasus Mountains, here's white folks. You got black folks right here. They got black skin and woolly hair. Said that they were part from a army of Sesostris, an Egyptian army. What were they there to protect? To keep these people in there. But furthermore, it says that they were circumcised. But circumcision was supposed to promise to the Jews from Abraham. Supposedly, Abraham said, your sign of the covenant is circumcision. But 484 to 425 BC, Herodotus had to have known about the so-called Jews because he went back and forth over Palestine. So how come he didn't see no Jews? How come he didn't see no circumcised white people? So it was the Colchians who were black, the Egyptians are black, and the Ethiopians are black. They have practiced circumcision from the earliest times. So who is the covenant with? The ones who were circumcised or the ones who weren't? Well, later on they were circumcised. And we have it from the walls of Egypt. So who circumcised who? We have the dark brother circumcising the light man, the white man, the lighter man. The dark man circumcising the lighter man. So we circumcise them to bring them into civilization. So they had a covenant with us, but they broke the covenant with us. But Allah is not going to break the covenant of us with Abraham. And that covenant is the sign of God's covenant with Abraham. Genesis 17, 9 through 11. And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man-child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. So, who is the covenant with? The Colchians, the Ethiopians, Egyptians and Ethiopians are the non-circumcised white folks until we circumcise them. So that covenant was us. Our covenant was God, because we've been circumcised from the beginning. Oh, it gets deep. So, the Bible itself has been tampered with. Okay? Now, this is Jeremiah 8 and 8. Get your Bible out. Let me read the King James Version. Then we'll go up here to the New International Version. The King James Version of Jeremiah 8:8 reads, how do ye say, we are wise, and the law of the Lord is with us? Lo, certainly in vain made he it. The pen of the scribes is in vain. What is that? Gobbledygook. And we can learn that Jews are their masters of gobbledygook. But here's a New International Version, a translation of the same scripture. How can you say, we are wise, for we have the law of the Lord, when actually the lying pen of the scribes has handled it falsely? See, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that there is truth in the Bible, but it has been tampered with. And therefore, somebody's got to straighten that out. And Allah came, God came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad how to interpret that to straighten it out so you wouldn't be snared and you be walking around trying to figure out what lo certainly in vain made he it. The pen of the scribes is in vain. Well, it's telling you that the scribes made the law in vain because it's a lie. But here, this is the clear version of it. So they tell you the truth in a way that you can't figure it out. Sneaky people. So these people, these savage raiders from the north, over 3,500 years period, have come down to attack and steal from the pastoral civilization and the agricultural civilization. Agriculture, that's dirt farming, and the pastoral, that's your animal husbandry. First of the Scythian or Aryan invasion into Asia, around 1700 BC. Now remember, Musa went up there in 2000 BC. So it took them a while to get their act together to get enough soldiers developed so they can come and begin to invade into Asia. They came down into Africa, the Hyksos invasion, around that same time, 1700 BC. The Babylonian invasion into Africa was 568 BC. In other words, they came in amongst us, we kicked them out. They came in amongst us, we kicked them out. We kicked them out. Then they came back again. And we kicked them out, but they did something real sneaky when they came this time. In 568 BC, Nebuchadnezzar did something real sneaky. We get that in a minute. You had a Greek invasion into Africa and Asia, minus 332 BC. That's Alexander the Great. Then you had a Roman invasion into Africa and Asia around 70 BC. Then you have the transatlantic slave trade, 1555 to 1865 AD. Then you got the present hidden war against blacks, from 1865 until today. Now, getting back to this Hyksos invasion. Now, supposedly, Joseph came into Egypt and then we enslaved him and his brothers. Okay? That's the story they tell you. But look what's in the Bible itself if you read it. Genesis 47, 20 and 23. This is very important. This is the smoking gun. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. For the Egyptians sold every man his field because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. Well, who is Pharaoh? He can't be the king of Egypt. The king don't have to buy nothing. He's the king. But this is a usurper. This is an outsider. And as for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt even to the other end thereof. Well, they did it again with us, with the black farmers, run off to the cities. But they did it back there in the ancient times, 1700 BC. And only the land of the priests bought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned them by Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them, wherefore they sold not their lands. In other words, the priest was a sellout. It's like the preachers are a sellout today. The priest was a sellout. The Egyptian priest was a sellout to Joseph and Pharaoh. Then Joseph said unto the people, behold, I have bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. So the Kemetic word for Pharaoh is perah, a great house, or as the person in the great house, emperor. In other words, these are invaders coming into the great house and sitting in our seat, taking over, and making us bow down to them, serve them as their slaves. So Pharaoh was not indigenous. He was not indigenous king of the Egyptians, of the Africans. And that is right there in Genesis 47, 20, 23. Take that to your preacher. Have your preacher explain this right here. Okay? All right. Now, Nebuchadnezzar conquered Egypt. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the Magi and Persians, was the first to build its foundations and to name it the fortress of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar came to Egypt with a numerous army and made a conquest of Egypt because the Jews had revolted against him. And he named the fortress Babylon after the name of his own city. This is a book by the name of Shihan, on page 38 of it. The important part of this is Nebuchadnezzar came to Egypt with a numerous army and made a conquest of Egypt. Now, he put a fort in Cairo. Remnants of it is still there. Fort Babylon. I always wondered what was a Babylon doing in Cairo. Well, there was a fort there. This fort was there to protect them, the Babylonians, as they extracted the people, extracted the wealth, the gold, extracted the wisdom, and took the knowledge that they had off of our walls and fabricated what's called to you the Bible today. Took prophecies and twisted them to make you think that they fit those prophecies, but they did not, and do not redo. Okay. Then when the Romans came, you see this is the Vatican. And of course, this is the United States. Very similar in terms of the capital. Here's the capital of the Vatican, and here's the obelisk. This is what they took from Egypt, stripped it of his artwork, of his writings. This is like the one at obelisk in front of the Temple Luxor of Ramses sitting on the throne, right here. And here, right here is Ramses sitting on the throne. And you see this writing? Well, when they took stuff from Egypt, they stripped it, set it there as a token, a monument to their conquering. And now they have this obelisk, which is made out of stone. It's not one block of stone like this is, but several stones, and it sits there in front of the capital, let you know they have conquered us again. They got us. The same way the Romans conquered and they had us. Now America got us. We are the prize. We are the prize. And now they even trying to steal us. Trying to steal Kemet, Egypt, from us, saying this is Nefertiti. That's Neferbecky. You know, like some Jewish girl that don't even like to be in there. This is the real Nefertiti. You see, conveniently, her nose is knocked off. Well, that's what they do with all our statues that have black noses. They knock them off, but you can see her features. She is a beautiful black woman, okay? Not a white woman or Jewish woman. She is a black woman. But they're trying to steal our identity. Now, later on, starting in 1470, the Portuguese found a little island 200 miles off the coast of the Congo. They would go in and steal women, bring them back to the island, rape them. Portuguese, Jews, rape them. Then make the baby believe that the baby was Portuguese, and had the baby who was half-breeds, half black, half white, send them into Africa with guns and liquor, telling lies, causing trouble, the way they did when they came down into Kemet in the Holy Land back 6,000 years ago, getting us to fight and kill one another, and then got a boat to buy off the captives in the boat and to bring that boat to America. They first came to America with us in 1555, as Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. They first tried to put us directly into like Jamestown, Virginia, and other places, but it didn't work. We escaped. Got in there with the Native Americans. They said, we can't do that. We got to first take them to the islands, but we break them. We do like we did over here. We can't bring straight Africans over here. We made them here to go in and get them out. Now when we get them out, we got to bring them over here to these islands, and then we got to break them in. We got to rape the women, kill the men, rape the women, take the babies, and train the babies to believe that they have been nothing but slaves. Once they have trained a set of people who are nothing but slaves, then they can think they're nothing but slaves, then they can bring them to America, and they won't run away. Not only that, but when they bring them to America, when they bring the Africans over there, then it's those blacks, the Negroes, who will keep the Africans in check. You hear what I said? They made the nigger on these islands so that when they brought them to America, they wouldn't run, plus they would break in the African when they brought them over, break them in to make them submit and tell master anytime there's any type of resurrection going, anytime there's a revolution going, continuous war against the black man and woman. And they did it all in the name of Jesus. The papal bull from the Vatican, Pope Nicholas V, directed King Alfonso V of Portugal to capture, vanquish, and subdue the Saracens, pagans, and other enemies of Christ, to put them into perpetual slavery and to take all their possessions and property in the name of Jesus. Pope Alexander VI issued a papal document on May 3rd, 1493, granting to Spain the right to conquer the lands which Columbus had already found, as well as any lands which Spain might discover in the future. This laid the spiritual groundwork to support the elimination of the human rights of Africans and Native Americans, all in the name of Jesus. War in the name of Jesus. Pope Alexander VI issued, this is what we just said. Now, when they brought us over here, this is taken from 1857. This is actually an estate sale of these Jews by P.J. Porcher and Abaya, auctioning off us. And among which, and now we expanded over here, this is Jews Selling Blacks, the book Jews Selling Blacks by the research team, among which are valuable carpenters, millwrights, engineers, coopers, mill hands, blacksmiths, boat hands, house servants. Hold it. Wait a minute. Let's go back. Carpenters. How can you be selling the carpenters? Okay, who taught them how to do that? Millwrights. Millwrights, those are the ones who run the mill, the flour mill, the grist mills, and keep any type of machinery running. There's a group called the millwrights now. There's a union of millwrights who keep all the mechanical stuff running in the manufacturing plant. Engineers. Wait a minute. Where did they learn engineering from? This is important. This word is important in 1857 because in the South, before the Civil War, and the North, there's only one school that taught engineering, and that was up north. That was the military academy. Okay, that's why the Corps of Engineers, because that's from the military. That's the only one who taught engineering. No other college, Harvard, Yale, University of Alabama, University of North Carolina, all these colleges were set up as seminaries. They were set up to teach the Bible because it was the Bible that they was going to use and have used to conquer the indigenous people and of America and brought us over here and keep our minds locked with the Bible. But these engineers, what happened was the South, when it was a part of the Union before 1865, 1862, when they started the secession, they did not want the North to teach agriculture and engineering because they had the people. They had us. We were the ones who grew the food, chopped the cotton, harvested the cotton. We were the ones who built the houses, the carpenters. We were the carpenters. We were the ones who made the clothes. We were the ones who did everything down south for them. They just beat us and killed us and whipped us, and we did all of that. And the South didn't want the North to learn agriculture and engineering, so they would have an advantage. It wasn't until the South pulled out in 1862 that the North finally passed the bill that they were trying to pass for decades to set up the land grant institutions so they can teach their children agriculture and technology. So it wasn't until the Civil War, when the white folks from the South pulled away, that the white folks in the North could actually teach themselves agriculture and technology, because their brother down south had us, and many of their brothers were Jewish. We get into that in a minute. So they, after slavery, starting from zero in 1865, blacks, by 1910, we had 60% of the farmland in Mississippi we owned. From 40 to 50% of the farmland in Louisiana, Alabama, and Georgia we owned. 50 to 60% of the farmland in South Carolina we owned. 20 to 30% of the farmland in Arkansas, North Carolina, and Virginia we owned. 10 to 20% of the farmland in Texas, Oklahoma, and Tennessee we owned. We come up 45 years out of slavery, and we about to take over agriculture, food production. They did the first census of agriculture and found out in 1900 that we had owned 12 to 13 million acres of land. But by 1910, we owned 16 million acres of land. Our population was 10 million in 1910. So they went to work. They went to war against us. They lynched us. They burned us. They castrated us. They destroyed our cities. You know about Tulsa? It was war. Because they saw we about to get away. And not only did they war against us on a physical level, they warred against us on a psychological level. They did studies saying that black people save too much money. You hear what I said? They said black people save too much money. They're buying up land. We got to stop that. We got to get black people to stop saving money and become consumers. So they decided to make us consumers. So they was running us off the land and then making us consumers, running us to the city, just like they did when Joseph and them Hyksos, them white boys came into Egypt, run us out of the farmland. And not only run us out of the farmland into the city, they're going to show you in a minute how they ran us out of the skilled trades. So, they ran us out. The KKK, they offered jobs. KKK ran us out. They offered jobs up north. The NAACP was set up. Well, the NAACP was set up by whites and Jews. And W.B. Du Bois. It was not an outgrowth of the Niagara movement that was set up in 1905 by 19 black men, including W.E.B. Du Bois. The Niagara movement was not looking for integration. The Niagara movement was looking for economic and political power. That's why they had to go up to Niagara, because it was against the law to do what they was doing. They was actually planning. And I'll show you more in terms of how wicked these people are. Whenever we try to develop something, whenever we try to do something for ourselves, they come with a vengeance. So we go into the book that Minister Farrakhan said should be on everybody's shelf and is a companion to Message to the Black Man. This book here is The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Volume 2. We got Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. This is Volume 2. I'm going to read you some things from Volume 2. You got to get this book. The Ministry of Agriculture, we live by this book because we learn a whole lot about business and agriculture in particular from reading this book about the business part of agriculture. Now this is from page 305, showing you when I was talking about how black people always try to organize and how white folks would just kill us for organizing. Blacks also fought back, forming groups like the Colored Farmers Alliance, which was organized in 1886 and spread to every state in the South. Its membership reached 1.2 million. Now look, we're just 10 million people. 1.2 million of the 10 million was in the members of this one Colored Farmers Alliance. And then people say, you know, niggas can't never get together. We can. We did. 300,000 of whom were women. Didn't discriminate against women. In 1889, Oliver Cromwell, an alliance leader, tried to persuade black farmers in LaFleur County, Mississippi, to do business with an independent cooperative instead of the exploitative local white merchants. The Mississippi whites seeded the countryside with rumors of Cromwell's criminality. Lied on the brother. Soon the governor sent three National Guard units to LaFleur, which joined several hundred whites who combed the countryside in search of Cromwell, destroying his movement and shooting and lynching 20 blacks. The relentless war against the black nation. Oh, black folks, they can't get together. You're a liar. Whenever we get together, you send in troublemakers or you just coming outright shooters. But you can't do that right now, okay? We got something for you. Praise be to Allah. We don't have it. God brought it to us to use against you. And we don't even know how to fly them. But it's okay. We got guys who do, and sisters that do, and they gonna blow you away. Now, let's get into this skills, trades, and labor. Not only do we try to organize in terms of farming, we organize in terms of skilled trades, because when we came out of slavery, remember, we were the carpenters, we were the engineers, okay, the coopers who build the storage tanks, and the carpenters. The National Labor Union and the Knights of Labor set out to organize all workers by an egalitarian strategy. In other words, they were trying to be equal to both black and white. Both failed, however, unable to overcome the inbred racist proclivities of the white race, white rank and file. The anti-Negro feeling was so intense, wrote one historian, that the Bricklayers' 1871 convention, 2 New York locals fought openly against admission of Negroes and even against the establishment of separate Negro locals. This widespread racial animus framed the 1880s emergence of the American Federation of Labor, that's the AFL, which would become the most dominant labor organization in American history, entirely designed to serve the interests of the white man. And the AFL that was formed in 1886, with its leadership being the imported product of Jewish union activism in Europe. Despite their bitter experience under the yoke of European anti-Semitism, Jews quickly assumed the leadership of the American labor movement and helped to engineer the racial policies specifically designed to choke off the economic prospects of the black laborer. Under the Jewish founder, President Samuel Gompers, the AFL successfully bludgeoned industrialists into a white-only hiring policy that would come to characterize the labor market for the next century. In other words, this Jewish man, Samuel Gompers, set up the AFL, and they went out to block the black man from getting hired as a skilled laborer by the industrialists. And it was so bad that even though after slavery we were the predominant in the skilled trades, for instance, in Cleveland, fully 1/3 of black males were employed by the skilled trades in 1870. That number had dropped to 1 in 10 by 1910. The 3,460 black tradesmen in New Orleans in 1870 had been reduced to fewer than 350 by 1904. Even though the black population had increased in that city by more than 50%. The same pattern of occupational eviction existed throughout the nation, its intensity mirroring the flow of European immigrants into the nation and into the workforce. And unions dominated by Jewish laborers were no different. The painters, the garment makers, the cigar rollers, and the waiters were largely made of Jews. And just like their white ethnic colleagues, all excluded non-whites. Now this guy Gompers, he was not just a Jew by word, he was trained. He was trained as a Talmudic Jew. He was trained in a Talmudic school. Let me read you what he says about himself right here in Circulation of Blacks and Jews. We like to get, their own words, so you can't say we anti-Semitic, we talking about somebody. No, we just read you what they say in his own words. This is this man Gompers, who his only formal education took place at the Jews' Free School, a Rothschild-funded Talmudic school in London, where he ranked 3rd in his class. The following is his own proud assessment of his Jewish learning experience. I was taught Hebrew, not the mongrel language spoken and written by the many Jews of the present age, but that honorable language that unlocked the literature of wonderful beauty and wisdom, the Talmud. The discipline gained from studying the Talmud is essentially the same as results from any legal study. No wonder all the Jews are lawyers. It develops the more subtle qualities of mind. The student learns to deal with abstract problems, to make careful discriminations, to follow a line of reasoning from premise to conclusion. This legal training given to the Jewish boy is fundamental in explaining the intellectual quality of many of the Jewish people. In other words, that's why the Jews are lawyers. That's why they taking the money, as Mr. Farrakhan said, the contracts with our entertainers. The entertainers wind up with nothing at the end of their life, and their Jewish managers and publishers and producers wind up with all the money because of that devil is in the details. In other words, they write these contracts in a way that it's hard for you to keep up with your money. And they've been trained that in their school under the Talmud, because the Talmud is the book of their technology. This is what they use to trick the Goyim, the Gentiles, the non-Jews. Okay, that's you and me. Now, let's go back and see the continuing sneaky fight against the black man. Look, the Committee for Economic Development set up an adaptive approach in 1962. Net migration out of agriculture has been going on for 40 years and at a rapid rate. Nevertheless, the movement of people from agriculture has not been fast enough. This adaptive approach recommended that vocational agriculture courses in rural areas be scrapped. Farm children be given college scholarships to study anything but agriculture, and agriculture prices be substantially lowered, and temporary income programs be instituted to protect the most suited for survival. And who are the most suited for survival? Of course, is the white farmer. So again, planned attack, government-sponsored attack on the black nation. And now the big one, the big attack. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, what the Muslims believe. The offer of integration is hypocritical and is made by those who are trying to deceive the black people into believing that their 400-year-old open enemies of freedom, justice, and equality are all of a sudden their friends. Furthermore, we believe that such deception is intended to prevent black people from realizing that the time in history has arrived for the separation from the whites of this nation. Now, who were the people who pushed integration? We were fighting against segregation, and we were separate but equal, but somebody introduced us to integration as the solution. Those were the so-called Jews as well, introduced us and helped us to force integration on the southern whites. And we're still fighting that war. And in the meantime, what happened to us was that we lost our morals. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, don't follow the white, don't integrate, don't follow her. She has led the black woman to disgrace. They bring dope in the black community, and they bring immorality into the black community. How do they do that? I know, I was a part of the integration. I saw what happened. I saw the white woman going after the black man, and then by opening her legs, easy like Sunday morning. Okay, as Lionel Richie says, easy like Sunday morning. So then she told the black woman, well, listen, if you want to get a man, you're going to have to put out. Put out means to open her legs before marriage. So now the black woman putting out, and we've been put into a immoral bondage. Then they brought drugs in the community. Then there's a war on drugs. So it's really a war on the black man. The black man trying to please the black woman who's trying to act like and live like the white woman. He go out and sell drugs. He wind up in jail. And she wind up without a man, on welfare, and a little white boyfriend. So they come and get in our community and spread their wicked seed. This is from Muhammad Speaks, May 12, 1972. Spread their wicked seed and ideas in our community. And with this immorality that's fighting and killing amongst us, again, by allowing them to be amongst us, causing us to fight and killing one another. You know you can't work on a job and hang out with just the black folks. The white folks will get over and get in your business and start some mess. Am I right or wrong? I know I'm right. I've been out there with you. Praise be to Allah. So now the Million Man March. Exceedingly great army. October 16, 1995. We get all the black men together. 2 million of them. Okay? Then we buy Muhammad Farms. Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with the 3 Economic Savings Program. He buys 1,600 acres of land down in Georgia, which we're sitting on right now. And what's the response of white folks? First, they drop the prices. We get the farm in 95, then here you come. Boom. The price is going down. The price is going down. This is soybeans. Peak go down by half. Here's wheat. We get the farm 95. Peak going down. All this. Remember when I told you they have control over these prices. So they sunk these prices when we got the farm. He said, oh man, they didn't do that just for you. It ain't just for me, it's for you. Because they didn't want the black farm to get back up again. The black farmers to get back up again. They didn't want us to lead the black farmers back up again. So they had to sink the whole ship. They don't care about them other crackers. The crackers go find out. They've been used and abused. Not as bad as we are, but they done took everything from y'all. Everything was taken from us when we were brought over here in slavery. You thought you was free, now they taking everything from you, white boy. What you gonna do about it? Okay. Boom! 2001, magic, engram, blowing up these two buildings. Never has any building still, skyscrapers falling because of fire. There was internal explosives. But it was so shocking to the world that it produced an engram against the Muslims. These Mossadic so-called Jews, the Mossad, along with the American infiltrators, neocons, working with them to pull off the greatest stunt, the greatest hoax and magic trick in the history of the world, to defame the black man, the Muslims. Look, 2001. I mean, do you know? You remember in 2000 they was worried about the term 1999 to 2000 that there's going to be a Y2K. Everything's going to shut down because the computers did not have enough digits. They had 999, but they didn't have anything for 2000 and 2001. They said 99. They didn't have no 4 over there because the white man didn't expect to be here past 2000. He know that 6,000 years was up. We're the only ones that don't know. He right here around now. He don't understand what's going on. Why am I still here? I should be gone. 6,000 years is over. Okay. Then the farm subsidies. So we're farming. Okay. Prices drop. The subsidies to help the farmers. We go and apply and get the subsidies. Then here comes Glenn Beck twice attacks the launch of Muhammad's economic blueprint by accusing Mirza Farrakhan of milking the government of subsidy programs. Then March 9th, Fox News lies, again accusing Mirza Farrakhan of getting farm subsidies. Let me just show you a little bit of money that we was getting. Here's the Nation of Islam's farm down here in Georgia. Okay, we were 146th in the county of Terrell County. In the county, Terrell County, Georgia, USA, farm subsidy recipients totals from 1995 to 2012. You had this one farmer, he had 2 farms. He got over $3.5 million for each of his farms. He's happened to be the head of the county commissions as well. But there were, look at these 146 farmers in Terrell County ahead of us in getting subsidies. And yet, we were the ones who've been talked about. The war continues. But this time, things are going to happen a little bit different. You see, Mr. Farrakhan is backed by a wheel. Okay? You attack Mr. Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, you're going to have to deal with the wheel. They know about the wheel. You see, now they admit that these wheels exist. So, black man and woman, are you going to go with your open enemy? Are you going to go and stay and fraternize with the people who call themselves Jews, who have acted like they're your friend? But we have proven to you over and over again that they are not your and my friend. We're not asking you to do anything negative to them. God will take care of them. All we're asking you to do, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is asking us to do, is to separate. As Moses went to Pharaoh and said, let my people go. But no, we don't want to let Pharaoh go. Let Pharaoh go so he can find his destiny, which is the grave. And we can find our destiny, which is to come out with great substance. So, young man, young black man, young black woman, let's separate. Let's go to school and get those skilled trades. Okay? We got a Blog Talk radio program every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Central. Blog Talk Radio, it's time to leave. We're talking now about the skilled trades. Go get you some carpentry. Go get you some electronics. Go get you some welding. We had a brother last night talking about, he said that a journeyman welder, said he made $180,000 in 8 months. Come on now. How long would it take you to make $185,000 without selling drugs? Come on, y'all. So look, let's get into these apprenticeship programs. You'll get a 4-year degree, get something substantive like agriculture or like engineering or like architecture. Don't get no social science and all that type of history and all. They tell you lies in the history. You know, get something substantive that we can build with. Nation building. And don't be afraid this time to build, because this time we got backup. Allah came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. I believe in him. I believe the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is alive and on the wheel. So, thank you for listening, and continue to listen and follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Support Muhammad Farms. Support the Stable Goods Project, the ABLE Project, the Muhammad's Economic Blueprint, and the 3-year Economic Savings Program, 4855 South Woodlawn Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60615. You can also contact me at Dr. Ridge, DRRIDGE, at NOIMOA.com. You can also, my Facebook page, of course, is originally Mukmeen. So thank you very much for listening. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.